So yeah, next up is gaming and tech. Let's do the fancy thing. We go here, we go here, and we do this. All right, so gaming and tech stuff. We go back to the reading. Yeah. First up on this is... Oh, that's right. I forgot this happened. Let's actually... What am I doing? That. Go in here. This is a follow-up on the Stop Killing Games movement. The founder of the European... Video games, what is it? The Video Games Europe lobby. Video Games Europe. They issued a statement involving the movement, and it's a little bit ridiculous. So we're going to read this and go through that. But declared their opposition to Stop Killing Games movement. No kidding. Campaign's founder, Ross Scott, rejected their flawed reasoning and total misunderstanding of the movement's goals. To give you the TLDR, this is a movement in Europe that they're trying to get signatures for, but you must be an EU citizen in order for your signature to matter. Though, again, I've been unable to verify exactly how it works, but I have been told that you must show proof of citizenship before they'll allow you to sign the petition. So it seems that all million signatures that they needed in order to get this in front of Congress should be legitimate, but they are going for 1.3 million signatures by the end of the month. Or I'm sorry, they're at 1.3 million signatures. They need 1.5 is what their goal is by the end of the month, and it seems like they're going to get it. In order to get the European Parliament, I think is what it is, not Congress. Congress is in the U.S. European Parliament to pass laws so that video game companies must sundown their games, not support. I think the vocabulary is very important here, because that is one of the reasons why some people in the community have been confused into saying that they don't support the movement, is because they don't understand that they're not demanding that games companies keep the servers connected to their games online until the end of time. Like, that's ridiculous. What they're requesting, what they're trying to get laws passed for, is so that if you have a game that requires an online connection to the company's servers, once they take those servers down, they sundown the game in such a way that it is still playable, at least by and large, after there are no longer servers to connect to. However that has to happen, or however that ends up happening, I guess is more appropriate, is kind of onto the game developer, because you can just switch it to offline only, which is kind of how games have worked throughout the last 80 plus years of video gaming. Or you can allow the community to run community ran servers that the games can connect to. Like, there's a number of different things that they can do. And that's what they're saying. We want you to do something so that just because you can no longer monetarily support this game doesn't mean that we don't still want to play this game, however small or large the community ends up being by the end. And if you're not behind that, I think you're still misunderstanding something. So I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining it perfectly, but so continuing on with the article. As previously reported, the Stop Killing Games EU petition finally reached 1 million signatures. It's arguably brought over the line after creator Ross Scott claimed that coverage by YouTuber Pirate Software misrepresented its goals and caused harm, only for bigger YouTubers to highlight inaccuracies and make a call to arms. That is a very large part of the reason. Like, that's how I found out about it, was because Pretty sure it was Linus Tech Tips is where I heard about it. If enough signatures are valid, it means the European Union Parliament must discuss making it illegal for video games companies to kill a game, i.e. closing official servers the game needs to run without offering any way for gamers to use their own or for the game to function without servers. That is the key right there. That one sentence explains it all. Now, Video Games Europe, excuse me, label and publisher group has announced their stance, rejecting the proposed laws. No kidding. Why wouldn't they? Quote, we appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. They missed their Oxford comma right there. I refuse to not point that out because Oxford commas are legitimately used. Anyway, we understand, continuing with the quote, we understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws, unquote. Scott has previously rejected similar claims, such as the box or purchase page, making no warnings about some titles eventually becoming completely inoperable. I love that they have a picture of Concord right here. Because that lasted 3 weeks. Wasn't even up for a month. So how could they have given an appropriate amount of time to warn people that it was going offline? VGE explains. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. I can understand that, but that's not your only option. Continuing with the quote, in addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create, unquote. That's inaccurate. VGE then forewarned, quote, we welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers and those who have led the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months, unquote. So, I think the thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about inside the movement yet is that there are legitimate, like, how, I mean, I was going to say, how are you going to do something like Halo Infinite multiplayer? But, like, it's a multiplayer thing. You can totally play it on a LAN, or because they have a legitimate point with players' secure data, illegal content, unsafe community, etc., etc. Like, that is a legitimate issue when you allow player curated servers. Like, that makes sense. However, if you find a way to make them not online only, which shouldn't be, I don't know, I don't understand how that makes it prohibitive. What was the vocabulary they used? Curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. I don't understand where that argument comes in if you simply just turn, because basically what it is on a single player game that's checking for online servers is it's checking in with the server every so often to legitimize that you have a legitimate copy of the game and it's not a pirated copy. If you delete that line of code or change that line of code in such a way so that it no longer does that check and no longer needs that verification from the server because the server is no longer there, like, then the piracy is going to happen anyway. And after a game has run through the paces, as it were, like, there's no reason to think that it's going to, that the piracy is going to ramp up all of a sudden after the game has been out for 4 years or however long you supported it. So just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Anyway, let's continue on. Good Lord, there we are. In their more detailed position paper, the VGE attempted to explain why providing continued support does not work for all games. Let's correct their grammar, shall we? Despite Scott and the campaign repeatedly stating they don't want companies shackled to endlessly supporting a game, rather wanting a game able to function even without that support. Like, I don't think we need to keep repeating that. there was, I thought I must not have read deeper into this, because I thought there was something. It would be prohibitive cost. Here we go. It would be prohibitive cost, they argue, further illustrating, in some cases, years or decades after the game's initial release, when only a small audience remains. That's the irrelevant point that they were talking about a moment ago. Insists video game companies are committed to the preservation of games. Oh, that's bullshit, and we all know it. There was a study done by the game's historian. I forget exactly what the name of the company was. It's been cited by the gaming historian on YouTube. I just can't remember who conducted the it's not even really a survey. They just took of all of the games previously released, and I think they only went up through like the Nintendo 64 era. Of all the games released up to that point, we had less than like 30% or something of all those games available. So preservation of their cultural value is not actually happening. Preservation of the games themselves is absolutely not happening. So I think that's a little bit ridiculous. These include Microsoft, Nintendo, blah 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 blah. Oh, here we go. This is the part that I thought was super interesting, because this goes against everything that the VGE is saying. Of note, VGE chairwoman Hester Woodlife of Warner Brothers Games considering Multiverse was shut down at the start of the year, and the Backlash Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League received over its always online requirement. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League implemented an offline mode when it was shut down, because it is no longer being supported by Warner Brothers. Despite Warner Brothers Games taking a $200 million loss over the game. Ironically, Warner Brothers Games, where VGE's chairwoman is SVP of Publishing, seems to support the Stop Killing Games goals, even when making a massive loss, thus proving this is cheaper than keeping it running, as the VGE fears. Nintendo, another VGE member, also updated Animal Crossing Pocket Camp in December last year, removing gacha and online elements to become a paid offline game with all the content in the game. Pocket Camp Complete is what it's called. At the time, Polygon reported, has Nintendo just figured out how to shut down a live game in a good way? It would certainly seem so. Scott covered the VGE response in his YouTube channel. I wish, if I click on that, we're going to get some sort of issue, so I can't, but his YouTube... Oh, there we go. Nope. Whatever. I'll try and put links in after we shut down the live. Continuing on, while conceding an unsupported game under consumer control could result in, quote, a rougher and more wild experience, which Scott knew first had over his Ross's Game Dungeon, covering such games, but nonetheless was not an excuse to destroy what people paid for. Clarifying, it just means they're on their own. Despite this, Scott feels it's very not true. Rights holders would be liable after relinquishing a game, taking it to the industry being incapable of writing an EULA and user licensing agreement that absolves them of liability after shutdown, despite similar with other products and services. He even suggests an example disclaimer, quote, once our company ends support, we are not responsible for any and all issues that arise from users continuing to operate the game in a discontinued and unsupported state, and absolve ourselves from any and all liability pertaining to its continued use. Sounds legit to me. Summarizes VGE's argument as any consumer playing an unlicensed game is a, quote, liability, and are now taking an, quote, extreme, hostile, unquote, approach to prevent that happening. Now they have the technology. Scott again suggests a simple fix, a splash screen that says the game isn't supported and the risk is entirely on the consumer. Yes. Like, he's definitely put a lot of thought into this. I really hope this goes in front of Parliament, just because that just sounds perfect. That sounds like exactly what we need. Let's move over a little bit more on the tech side of gaming and tech. This one is going to be a real quick one. We have just the announcement that Google is finally going to be unifying Android OS and Chrome OS. Google executive says the company Samir Samat is the executive who said it. Google is taking another step towards unifying the ecosystem by merging Android and Chrome OS. Samir Samat, the president of Google's Android ecosystem, confirmed this shift in an interview with Tech Radar. This is from yesterday. Samat was curious how the publication's Lance Ulanoff manages things across several Apple devices, namely a MacBook, iPhone, and Apple Watch. I asked because they're going to be combining Chrome OS and Android into a single platform. I'm very interested in how people are using their laptops these days and what they're getting done. It does not say when the planned merger is going to happen, but it is going to happen. And doesn't say which naming scheme they're staying with. They're going to keep calling it Android OS, or is everything going to become Chrome OS? That remains to be seen as well. But when we get there, we'll keep following up on stuff. We have a follow-up on Resident Evil. Resident Evil mobile game. We got a first glimpse of from Capcom. Capcom just shared a lengthy trailer for the upcoming Resident Evil Survival Unit. This is a mobile game, but not a remake of a pre-existing title. I don't know how much we're going to be able to hear, so let's just see what happens. Let's see if OBS is hearing this. Nope, no audio. Sad times. Let's see if we can get to gameplay. So we can at least, there we go. There's some gameplay. I mean, that looks pretty great for a mobile game, right? Can we get bigger? Let's get bigger. Let's make it bigger. That looks really cool. Like, if I wasn't a Luddite as far as phones go, I would potentially get that, but I am a phone Luddite. I love how Capcom is doing their media presentations anymore with this giant green screen setup that they have. I think it's pretty dang cool. Get some new boss stuff. Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. If you have not watched it yet, go check it out. It's for the Survival Unit mobile game. It's pretty long, so be aware, but worth a watch nonetheless. And then I think we have... Oh, this is kind of a bigger story as evident as kind of shown by this one article. We'll get there. OpenAI's own web browser could arrive within weeks, according to Engadget. OpenAI said to be almost ready to unleash its own web browser. Why is this relevant? Well, because Perplexity just launched their own web browser. But the interesting thing with the Perplexity web browser is that it is Chrome-based. It is Chromium. So, it's basically Chrome with a couple of AI agents built into it. If you want a much more deep dive, go check out Matt Wolf's channel. He does a pretty good deep dive. Or Matt VidPro. Matt VidPro, I think, is the other AI guy that I watch a lot of. He goes even deeper than Matt Wolf does into how it works. It's interesting, but like it's still not to the point where it seems like it's going to be changing how you use a browser, like revolutionizing, I guess, how you use a browser. It's just going to be slightly more convenient. But yeah, according to Reuters, the company is aiming to more deeply integrate its services into users' work and personal lives. The browser is part of that strategy. Our first day with the new tongue. Sorry. Naturally, the browser is slated to have a ChatGPT-style chatbot baked in. OpenAI is reportedly looking to use browser to capture more user data, a strategy that has worked to Google's benefit with Chrome. Browser is also expected to have an agentic AI features such as Operator, which are billed as tools that can carry out actions such as booking reservations, etc., on a user's behalf, having difficult access to information like the web browsing data. So one of the things in the Matt Wolf video that he kind of gives you an example of what it can do for you is some of the agentic AI in the Perplexity browser that can send a tweet for you. But you have to open the dialog box, tell it what tweet to send, and that it's a tweet that you want to send to X, right? So it's really not any more effective by and large because you have a lot more options if you just went to the X website to begin with. Like if you go to your account in your browser or on your phone, you open up your account via the app, you can schedule your tweets. It didn't look like you could do that with the Perplexity system. So I don't know if OpenAI is going to do any different as far as that is concerned, but it just seems like I said, it's almost there, but I think a large part of it is going to be when they have much more conversational elements with the AI bots that you can talk to. I think then it will be the beginning of revolutionizing how you interact with a browser. Right now, it's just a new finish on top of how the browser already works. So yeah, no idea, according to Reuters, when this is going to be happening, but yeah, it seems to be in the works. So continuing on, that is what we have for gaming and tech, which means we get to do the fancy thing again. Let's go do the fancy thing.